Well, for more on this, we're now joined via Zoom by Samatu General Secretary, Dr. Cedric Sihlangu. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having us.
All right. I am sure, going to be a shock to many South Africans that when we constantly hear about how our hospitals are under-resourced, that there are 1,000 doctors sitting at home. How can that be?
If the words it would be laughable were appropriate, I would actually say that it's laughable. But unfortunately, it's a very serious situation. And indeed, we've got over 1,000 doctors sitting at home in South Africa when there's a dire need of these skills in our public health facilities, in the clinics and in the hospitals. So it's really a sad day indeed that we've got this kind of skill set and we just keep it in our back doors. And yet, ultimately, these doctors end up leaving and they take up employment overseas, which is a real unfortunate situation here.
What's gone wrong? Is it a systemic issue? What's happening?
Look, we make the point that the biggest tragedy here is that those who preside over the healthcare system, the public healthcare system in particular in this country, they themselves do not subscribe to it, meaning that your ministers, your MECs, your HODs have got these medical aids which entitles them to utilize the private healthcare system. So they are almost guaranteed that should they need to access the healthcare system, they're going to get a doctor. In fact, if an HOD complains of a headache, they get sent to a neurologist. If it's a small chest pain, they get sent to a cardiologist. And here, which is the bulk of the population, over 80% of our people who don't have those options are literally sentenced to the public healthcare system, which is failing. They can only really utilize that system, and they can't even get access to a generalist. They can't even get access to a doctor, and that's really the tragedy of it all. And there's just no excuse, really, Peter. We know that healthcare is a basic human right, and it's just unacceptable that we can have doctors sitting at home when they could be rendering very needed healthcare services.
I'm pretty sure you've engaged the authorities at length. What are they telling you?
Well, there's a lot of rhetoric. I mean, we've started this conversation in the middle or towards the end of last year. In one instance, we were told that within 2 weeks, all the doctors would be placed. All we need to do is to provide a list. And the reason for that, why the list has grown so much now, is because there were a lot of doctors who thought they would get employment by end of the year or beginning of the year. So they never really completed any of the forms to say that they are in need of employment. Now, 2023 has come, and many of them find themselves without employment. That's why the list has grown from over 400 to over 1,000 now. And, well, the department now, after we've handed our memorandum to the minister, seems to say that, look, they are prepared to do everything within their power to ensure that these doctors get placed. So we'll be very closely monitoring that, and we are going to be having an interval meeting with the minister again, just to ensure that our discussions would have gone accordingly.
Are the doctors prepared to work in really remote places? Because sometimes that was the problem, where doctors only wanted to work in certain areas and where they were needed were very remote and they didn't want to work there.
Look, Peter, this narrative is strange. We're really not sure where it comes from, but we've never seen it, to be honest with you. From the far-flung communities, from the far-flung regions of this country, they want to go back and serve their people. They know the situations where they're coming from, and they're being deprived that opportunity. You've got doctors who come from Gangilizwe, as we've mentioned, doctors who come from Kanyamazan who want to go back to those communities, and there's just no opportunity being given to them to go back. and they are prepared to go back.
Yeah, where are the doctors falling off? You finish med school and then you've got to do an internship. Are they being provided spaces for those internships? And then once they finish, is that where they fall off the wagon, as it were?
Well, it seems like we're chasing our tail, and even the minister attested to this today to say we used to have a problem with absorbing interns after they've graduated. There used to be budgetary deficits, and as a result, the ministry made quite a lot of appeal to Treasury to make funds available to ensure that no intern finds themselves out of a job, because that's a statutory placement that you need to go through internship before you can qualify as an independent practitioner. And similarly with community service. So we've solved that problem. But in solving that problem, now there's this gap of after you've completed your internship and completed your community service, now suddenly, again, you are left in limbo to languish and fend for yourself. And that's the situation where we're in. It doesn't seem to be concrete, long-lasting solution. That's really what it is.
All right. So bottom line, the hospitals genuinely need more doctors, but there doesn't seem to be budget for them, and therefore they can't employ them. Is that the story in a nutshell?
That's the story in a nutshell, and it is for us to say we don't think it's acceptable. Remember, government has got a responsibility, a constitutional obligation to ensure that there's provision of healthcare services. Now, it is for government to ensure that there's proper prioritization of the available budget so that these doctors get employment. Human resource in a healthcare system is absolutely quintessential, it's crucial. So you can't have a situation where we're told there's no budget, but on the other hand, conveniently, we see money being squandered through multiple tender processes, and we've just come from the PPA scandal. So it's a convenient argument, really, to say there's no money when we see billions being spent and evaporating like it's nothing.
All right. We'll leave it there, but it's the story I'm going to try and follow up as well with the Ministry of Health officials and try and get a response from them. But thank you so much for giving us a side of the story. Thanks for your time.